Hey, one and all, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and welcome to the first episode of the Underground Rideshare podcast. This is a podcast series that is exclusively for talking to underground rideshares on YouTube. And what I mean by that is these are people who drive Uber, Lyft, or maybe they even do Postmates and Roadie or something like that. And they've decided to make YouTube channels. And I like their content, I like them, I like their work, and yet they haven't reached 1,000 subscribers yet. So I am here to make the series to shine a light on those people who are still underground, but I feel that they could become up above the ground if, get a little bit of time and stuff like that. And I'd like to help them out with that. And for the first guest that we have on this episode, we have someone that I've actually known about for a while now. He is known as the Savage Scientist. Say hi.
Hello, everyone.
So, Savage, you're interesting because I was planning this podcast for probably like a month and a half. What some people don't realize is that podcasts aren't something you just click a button and you start. You got to figure out what they're about. You got to think about what you want to ask, and you got to think about guests if they're going to be guests heavily related like this one. And I was talking to a mutual acquaintance, at least a mutual online acquaintance, talking about the series, and he told me what a good idea it was. He said, "Oh, scientists on," and I said, "No, I'm not having the Savage Scientist on. He doesn't have less than 1,000 subscribers." And he's like, "Yeah, he does." And I went and it was like, "Oh shoot, sure enough, how'd that happen?" So yeah, I guess you're my first guest. And I don't know, how have you been doing this so long and not have 1,000 subscribers?
It's interesting that I have a variety channel, and I've been doing rideshare videos, but it's just that my the way I approach these videos are a little different. I try and tell it the way it is in the streets, and I might use the language that's used in the streets. I curse. Well, when I started, I cursed a lot in my videos. My actual old channel trailer, I cursed a lot in it. And I know they have other rideshare channels that are more successful than mine. They cuss more than me. But I also the other thing that hurts my channel is that I do other things besides rideshare. I cover gaming, technology, and also science. So a variety channel is the hardest to grow here on YouTube, and that's proof because of my channel growth. So my strategy is now to make the channel more about my personality and less about specific types of videos, or combine all those areas, combine everything I do. Like if I post a video on YouTube, the way I'm starting to do videos now is that if you watch any of my videos, you will get science, gaming, rideshare, and some type of review out of it. Even if I'm just talking about like if I was playing Zelda, I would actually make it somehow relatable to rideshare. Even if I say that Gliok that I just shot an arrow at, damn, that thing remind me of driving Uber and I saw somebody with a Zelda on a car or something like that. So I'm gonna do my best to relate all my content so it could be relatable no matter what I'm talking about to those four categories that I cover.
So are you playing Hyrule Warriors on Switch? Because I just picked that up.
No, I gave my son it actually was his Switch. I gave it to him last year. But yeah, it was the Zelda game that came out with the Switch. Which one was that?
That was Breath of the Wild, which was an amazing game, by the way.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, my son, I actually have the game still at the house because he beat the game while he was here. So I'm like, well, leave it here. Maybe one day I'll get a Switch and I'll continue playing. So he have a lot of free time, so he could do everything. I had to show him, you know what, I'm not nobody who just learned how to play video games yesterday. I had to show him that I might be old school, but I still show him that I'm the one who I'm the one who used to beat the old Nintendo game and record it and have it on VHS tape.
I would love to. I would love to see a lot of the kids of our generation try to beat the first Zelda game without using a strategy guide like we had to. It's it's hard.
Yeah.
Way harder than what they do now.
My approach to video games was, yes, I know they had the big 300-page Nintendo strategy guide, but what I used to do is I like playing the game and just figure it out. Because if I know that my parents wasn't gonna buy me another game till a year later, I better get as much as I can out of this game. But it's like once I figure out one secret or one strategy, then the whole game comes apart. Because that's when it gets easy. It's just figuring out it's just figuring out how to play the game and what's the objective.
Yeah, well, they made that interesting documentary, The King of Quarters, about the Donkey Kong record run, and Steve Weeb was the one who figured out the science to jumping over the barrels. That's how he got such a high score. So, yeah, I guess there is a science to it. Speaking of which,
so yeah, in most video games are really algorithms, especially when you get into the AI behind them. And I haven't been playing a lot of video games, but that's really, my channel really was supposed to be about the science of video games. Because if you look at my earlier videos, I actually was talking about video games. I have the Switch unboxing, playing them, and my TV broke, so I couldn't do video game content. So now I got another TV, which I just mounted on my wall. So I'm about to start playing video games more. And it is a period of time where I did a lot of nothing but Uber videos, starting with the one with the long trip notification, but that was actually supposed to be an experiment.
Yeah, of course, it's those Uber videos. That's what caught my attention. I actually was not aware that you had video game videos. I might have to check them out. But is it because of the video games and the science of video games? Is that why you're called the savage scientist, or what's the story behind that?
It kind of sounded like your phone was breaking up a little, but it could be mine too. But I think that when you do a channel that's and you have content that because I might have some subscribers who come to see me talk about video games and some people who come to see me talk about Uber. So the keep the people from those two prospects interested, I have to somehow make this stuff relatable, or somebody might want to see me do an experiment. The thing is, like, I ran out of gas the other day, and I knew better than doing this, but I wound up putting the gasoline in a styrofoam cup. But I thought that I have enough time to get it to the car, so I'm walking across the parking lot, and all the gas wastes out the cup because I forgot that gasoline eats through styrofoam.
Yeah, there's a reason.
That is going to be a great. Yeah, that's going to be a great science video when I recreate that experiment. But now I'm going to have to do chemistry on it to find out what makes it so the gasoline eats through the styrofoam, because it has some type of reaction, probably with the I'm thinking it's probably reacting with some of that I can't even guess because I'm not a chemist, so I really have to do a lot of research. But I'm thinking it's a reaction with something in the styrofoam. And I'm thinking it's the hydrogen.
And is that like your big passion and why you called your channel Savage Scientist, because you're really into science?
Well, it's really because I actually have a degree in computer science. And
okay.
And I do a lot of math in journalism. So that's why and that's, if you look at it, that's why you are starting to get out of doing Uber videos and more covering news, because you cover news well because of your background in journalism.
Yeah, it's a few reasons. I mean, first of all, it is my background in journalism. It's also the fact that Uber is frankly driving me crazy. It's stressful to talk about them when they never seem to learn. And also, I think I think there's only so much you can make the channel about just Uber. And I look back and it's like, I'm really glad I called my channel Apptrepreneur, because when people come now and they ask me, what's your advice for creating an Uber channel? The first thing I tell them is, well, don't title it directly to Uber. Don't call it rideshare something. Don't call it driver something. Have it technology-based something, or something that's a little bit more ambiguous, so that in case you get to that point, and you probably will get to that point where you just hate talking about their CEO, you can talk about something else and not go crazy.
Yes, I don't know if you saw I actually made, I think last year, I made a video when I was telling people, if you have a YouTube channel or if you into social media, it might be time to start looking at an escape plan from Uber, because I think that was around the time I was saying Uber and Lyft are going to hell or something like that. But I was saying that these companies, you know, the whole rideshare space is bigger than Uber and Lyft. So I think that was the middle of last year.
Right. It's just going to take someone to figure that out. And I think the only reason it hasn't happened yet is because a lot of the companies looking to get into it, they look at how big Uber and Lyft is, specifically Uber. They see how much they have to charge. They know that they can't make money charging it and paying drivers, so they won't get into it until they can either charge enough to pay the drivers and not lose money, or get the driverless cars. And that's the only reason no one's challenged them yet. Because I can easily see...
Yeah, the driverless cars are interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because I could easily see Amazon or Walmart or Microsoft or Apple creating an app. That's essentially what these are. They're just apps. Uber doesn't have any actual cars. I could easily see any of those companies doing that. It's just most companies don't want to lose $4 billion every 4 months.
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest challenge to Uber, or the biggest prospective buyer for Uber, would probably be somebody like the Amazons or the Google. You know, Amazon and Google, because, you know, I'm just really thinking that they just waiting for Uber to really screw up so bad till they have to sell. Because really the name Uber is worth more than the company. Because Uber became a brand name. And I've been saying this. I know Ride with Peterson said this too, but I'm going to just quote him because he already put it out there. But, you know, if you look something up on the internet, you Google it. Back in 1993, it was called, you search online, or you go online and search for it or look it up. And now it's the same thing. If you want to do carpooling, it's called Ubering now. It's just paid carpool.
Yep. Well, I personally search on Bing, but the point is well made. When people say Google it, I mean, yeah. So it's become a verb, and so when people, even if they call a Lyft, they say I got in my Uber. So the Uber name is definitely worth a lot more than the service. It kind of reminds me of the George Foreman grill, which was like a very popular grill for many, many years, and the company at one point said, what the heck are we doing paying George Foreman all these royalties? Let's buy him out. And I think he resisted for a few years, and then they eventually made him an offer he couldn't refuse. So they bought him out. And so it's no longer called the George Foreman Grill. And yet it now doesn't sell very well because it doesn't exist anymore. They don't know what the grill is called without a title.
Yes. Yeah, it's like Pampers and diapers too. I mean, I think it's actually called diapers, but more people call them Pampers.
Yeah, or the best example, when people ask for a Band-Aid, it's actually not a Band-Aid, it's an Elastostrip. Band-Aid is a brand.
Oh, that is a good one. Yeah, you know, and that's to show you these name brands, these names are worth a lot. Can you get that stuff? Like if I wish I could go to the trademark office right now and buy the name, like if you could buy the trademark Uber, but I think only they could do it. I know it's some type of legality behind it, but that name is worth a lot for a service that's picking up people, because Uber is still just a word. I think it just means something like abundance. But yeah, so if anybody call themselves Uber, they could just say they do a lot of something.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, well, and that's why I think Uberman hasn't been sued, because I think when he described it, he said if not that they've tried to sue him, but if they ever made that attempt, his argument, and he admitted it might be a weak argument, would be like, I could call myself a big man, and that's what it means. And it's like I'm gonna. So it's like, yeah, it's an interesting situation, but yeah.
But if you
Yeah,
had a variety channel, like I think I have a better chance at calling myself Uberman than Uberman. But really, now that he's starting to do car parts, I guess he could be into Uber things related to cars. So he might, I mean, now that he is actually doing other stuff besides Uber, I mean, his case is getting stronger the more he branch out.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, and he stopped talking about Uber for the same reason I started branching out. It's just it got to be such a stressful thing to talk about that company. But speaking of Uber, and I guess we already delved into a little about why you started doing Uber videos, but of course we have to ask, what got you into driving for Uber in the first place? What was that moment that made you say, I'm going to give this rideshare thing a try? Was it early in the days when it was just starting, or was it later on when it was well established?
Well, really, as far as my channel actually happened while I was driving for Uber. I started Savage Scientist at the end of 2016, and I wanted my first video to be, well, one of my first videos was a taxi cab video where somebody left $500 in my car, and then you'd be like, well, I recorded that because I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to keep the money and go on about my business. But I just wanted to capture that story and put it out there. So with that being said, I started driving for Uber after I lost my job with the state back in 2014. Uber was just launching in the Baton Rouge area, and my ex-wife told me I should try out Uber because I was a cab driver and I liked driving cabs, because I like to be my own boss. So I tried it out, and the pricing was great.
Like, what was the price?
It was $1.70 a mile. And
yeah.
So right now, I remember picking up a customer, bringing them from the area I stayed to the airport, and make a $28 profit. And I was working for Yellow Cab 2 years before then, and to catch a cab to go that same distance would cost the customer about $26. So I know Uber had to take their cut out of it, but I think that was around the time Uber was new, so they were more generous with the money they were giving us. But I knew eventually they were gonna start, they're gonna start charging. So they got to the point where they pricing. I mean, well, after that they started. Louisiana State University had a football game, and I made a ton of money that 2014 football season. I killed it. I had cab drivers hating me. I was featured on the local news, all that stuff. And I talk about that in my videos because a lot of people might think that I'm some rookie driving Uber. Even around here, I let them know I'm a senior driver. I might not have 300,000 trips, but I understand the big what's really going on. Like, I research my trips, so I might do about 30 trips and make $1,000, well, somebody might have to do 3 or 4 times more. And and I might actually post those types of videos. But I saw the prices go from $1.70 in 2014 to about $1.60 in 2015. Then it really dived in about at the end of 2015. It went to about $1. Then it dropped to 72 cents. And I had a good job when it really dropped. So I only did Uber when it was mad surge.
Which, you might not even have the surge soon.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I posted a video saying I can't rely on Uber. I have to branch out and find other things. That's why I do Hello Tech and Roadie. I used to do Lyft, but I got deactivated from them. But I have a video on that.
What was the reason for that? Oh, you have a video on
Somebody
that. Well,
said
then
I was drinking, and somebody said that I was drinking, but I really just, I only could assume, but I just think that they wanted a free ride.
I find most of the time that's probably true because I mean, my question, of course, is if someone gets a complaint that someone is drinking and driving, I would think the next logical thing for Uber and Lyft to do is like, well, how many rides did they do that night? Because if they did like 12, and that's the only time they got that complaint, then something's probably not right. Because you would think that would show up with other rides as well.
Yeah,
So,
but another thing is, since it is contract, they don't have. I mean, somebody gonna sue the hell out of them because I don't think that they have. They just say that it's our platform. We could deactivate you at any time, and that's one of the good things about in California how they are trying to make the drivers employees, because you can't just fire somebody. Really, if any job, you can't fire somebody or deactivate them or terminate them from a contract because of somebody said something. They gotta have proof. I have all my emails that I sent to Lyft, and I told them that they don't have any proof of this. I have a camera in my car, and I told them, well, I have proof to show that I wasn't drinking and driving. There's no police report. You know, if a police report was involved, then yeah, I mean, I'm drinking and driving. But they don't have any proof. And that's why I was so mad till I had to make that video. And man, I don't know why it didn't go viral. That is viral type crap there, man. You know, I mean, it just happened that if PewDiePie just happened to see that video, now everybody knows Savage Scientist Ed.
right. Well, if PewDiePie discovers anyone, then yeah, you're famous at that point. No doubt about it. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. And you know what? I've never got a complaint that someone thought I was drinking before, but I mean, it's always interesting how I can have like a night of all these great 5-star experiences. We love the music. We love the jokes. I actually, people say that I'm bitter at Uber because I must not have done a good job. No, I actually have way more compliments and badges than most people for whatever the heck that's worth. And yet you would still get that occasional complaint where all of a sudden, like everything wrong. And I can't even remember. I don't even know what ride it was because it's like, this doesn't sound like any other rides I took. And
that's
sometimes
why I
the stories
like
just seem
Uber.
so outrageous. That's why you like Uber?
Won't just deactivate you for one complaint, because I had a complaint the other day, and somebody said I keep the car too cold. But the thing is, I think those badges and all that stuff, that kind of help our case if somebody decides to say something is wrong with your car, it's dirty or something, or you were driving too fast, then Uber actually have tracking in the app. It's tracking your speed. So if I have 5 clean cars and then one person who has a 4.2 rating, say the driver was rude or he cursed a lot or his car was raggedy, it was smoking or something, then Uber will be like, well, send us a picture of your car if it's raggedy. Or, you know, it look like Uber do a little more due diligence to find out what's going on instead of Lyft, who just go straight into enforcement.
Yeah, although I have to say I've had some bad experiences with Uber as well. Like one time that particularly stood out was when I was like doing a long ride on a surge, and this was back when rates were pretty high, and it was like an hour away. Well, we had to make a couple stops. We make that first stop, and this was like a clue for me, but the guy said, "Is surge over yet?" And I was like, "No, it's still surging." You know, I think he wanted me to end the ride, but I just kept going. Well, when we went to his house, when we were on the freeway, there was like a big accident or something. Like it was like a really big deal. So we had to actually pass 3 exits. Like we had to go 3 exits down than what we were supposed to get off, and I kind of had to turn around. And they saw this. They knew that I couldn't get off on that exit, and thus it kind of added an additional 5 or 6 miles, but they complained to Uber, and Uber saw on the map that I took a longer route than I needed to, and so they docked the surge from me, and that was like some $80 that I lost that night. And
oh yeah, I would have been mad.
Yeah, I mean, and granted, I still
if you would let the customer out on the expressway, you would have got deactivated for safety.
Yeah, well, and the thing was, I could just tell, and I kind of sense that, you know, this guy was being dishonest. I mean, the fact that he had asked, is the surge over, before the ride was even finished, like, spoke volumes. And I still made like $86 or $96 that night, I should say. And so it's not like I can complain too much, but I should have easily been able to have made like, because I got to see it was like $176. Something
I thought
like that when the ride
doing that to me too, because I actually have to think like a crook. And if I got into a situation where I got a 12-time surge, I would try and walk as far as I can, and then soon whenever I keep the app on, and I call an Uber from the edge of the surge, and then catch an Uber to get out of the surge, and then get dropped off right there, even if it's in the middle of nowhere, and then catch an Uber.
Yeah, although, you know, they made it so that unless you were a driver, it's a lot harder to track the surge, because now they don't tell the passengers that there's a surge. And I've noticed, because this used to be a problem, used to be a big problem, in fact, that when there was surge, you would get like a call, you know, you'd get like a ping, you'd accept it, and then immediately someone would be texting you saying, oh, this is the address, and you look it up, and it's not like it's a block or two away, it's like 4 miles away, and you know immediately, oh, they're moving the pin outside of the surge zone, and no, I'm not going to play like that. And I don't see that happening anymore, probably because there's really no way to do it. And now with them taking away the surge,
I think it's just it'll just show you. You put your 2 points in, and then you look. Yeah, I just use that price, and so I would move the pin up the street and try to walk there. That is. You still could see it, and you know you could actually have the Uber app open in 2 different phones.
Right.
With the current surge.
Oh, the current surge, it's like impossible to do that as well, because now you don't even see the surge on the map until you go online.
Oh, well, I haven't seen a new surge, but they've been experimenting with that too, because I noticed sometimes it'll be surging, and the only way I can see it is if I turn my phone on.
Right. And
one of the things is, if you turn the phone on, once, like if you have 2 phones and you go online just so you could see it, once it's available, it's available. You'll have to leave the app. As long as you don't leave the app, then you could turn it off, and it'll still continuously update.
Oh, well, that's nice to know. But so anyway, this is actually going to bring an interesting question. So what do you think was like the biggest time an Uber or a Lyft, in all fairness? Well, let's take that Lyft story off the table. What is the biggest time an Uber passenger truly screwed you out of some money, or just how was the biggest way you got screwed on this platform?
I'm trying to think. I haven't got screwed by a passenger besides the time I got deactivated, but price, I never got screwed out of pricing.
Okay.
I'm really thinking, because I used to be a cab driver too, so all the stuff they did, I done saw. So I know a lot of people tried, like trying to move the pin, or they had. I know one time I tried to get a customer to cancel because surge was going up. So for somebody to wait an hour for me to come, I already know, and I know if I cancel it, they probably gonna report that to Uber, because that's when it was real good. It was about 3 times surge, and I had my other phone open, and I was looking at it at 8 times, and I was trying to say it might be easier for you to cancel and get somebody on the other side of town coming from the coming from the south, because I would have to go through the worst of the surge, because they were on the other side, and they said, "Oh, it's okay," because he know that if he get a surge, I mean, he already know that if he was to cancel, he was going to get that 8 or 9 times surge. So by the time I got to that customer and dropped him off, I mean, he still had to pay. I think it was probably 2 times surge. But if for that same price, that would have been a 9 times surge. It was 9.9 that night. And I took a picture of that surge with my phone, and I was mad. I was talking about that for about a month.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would be talking about that for about a month. Heck, the story I shared, I talked about for like 4 months. It ticked me off so much. Like I developed like a new phrase ever since doing Uber where, well, I don't know if it's new, but it was new to me, as they say. And where one night I just said, boy, never underestimate people's determination to be cheap.
Yes. It's all about money.
You were probably feeling that way when you were a taxi driver, because I'm sure, I mean, we don't hear the stories as much, mainly because the internet wasn't as prevalent, and taxi cab drivers are not going to be talking about their job on the internet when their employers could easily be reading that. But I'm sure people are trying to screw taxi drivers out of their money as well.
Yes, I had people like I always thought about it, I need a counterfeit pen marker, because I have to think, if I thought about it, if I go and print me out a couple $100 bills, go get me a $20 cab ride, that's one way to get $80 real cash and a free ride. Get a cab driver that fake $100 bill.
Right, and if it's late at night, if it's late at night, it's harder to tell because you can't hold the bill up to the sunlight that you normally could.
Yeah, I said that at the end of one of my videos, I think it was the one where I talk about my worst trips. I said that that they should get a counterfeit marker pen.
Right.
They $8 at Office Depot, because when I used to drive in New Orleans, and sometimes I drive in New Orleans, I would take cash trips. I mean, sometimes somebody would see me, and I would run them for cash. And when I used to drive cabs, I used to have a counterfeit marker pen. Marker pen? You'd have a counterfeit marker for money.
Yeah. Now, tell me, I'm kind of fascinated by your cab thing, because I know a lot of people pay cash, and usually they pay the cash after the ride is over, because you don't know exactly what the ride's going to cost till it's done. My question is, that had to have meant you had more than one person who, once they got to their destination, or just before they got to their destination, tried to flee the cab. Did that happen too often with you?
Well, I had somebody, I ran up, this happened on 3 occasions. $60, $65, and $80. Where the customer got out the cab and just started running. One guy actually got out the car and said he wasn't paying me, got out the car while I was parked. I got mad. I drove the car through a ditch, running behind him, and then I stopped the car in front of him. I got out the car, and I wanted to hit him, but I just called the police. He was, that's told in my story too. And so he was sitting in the bushes by a Waffle House, and the cops came to him and told me he got to pay the cab driver. He said he not paying me, so he went to jail.
Now, is that, I have to be honest, does that feel good, or is it kind of like a moot point because you still didn't get your money and you're not going to get
I was mad. I was really mad, but I wound up getting a good job after that, so I didn't even worry about going to court on that.
No. Okay. Well, I'm glad you got a good job after that. So,
yes.
Now, since you have done the cab and Uber driving, I guess you're a very good person to ask, what are the pros and cons between doing both? Does driving a cab have some advantages that Uber does not have? Because that never gets discussed. And logically, it seems like there should be an advantage or two to being a cab driver over an Uber driver, but having no experience, I can't comment on that, but maybe you can.
Well, the biggest difference between driving a cab and driving Uber is that you have competition that you could go to with your driving experience. And cab companies set their own rates, and you can negotiate with them. Uber take the money from you, and that's it. And the thing is, whenever it's really, really, like I'm talking about, if you see a 7 or 8 times surge on Uber, as a taxi cab driver, the taxi cab driver is going to make more money. Because the way it works is, if you get a 7 or 8 times surge, you only picking up one customer or only one paying ride. With a taxi cab, you could break all the rules. You could pick up somebody. Well, this is what I used to do. If I'm in a taxi cab drive and somebody might stop me and say, "I give you $100," they will give me $100 to bring them to a hotel downtown. It might be $100 with 9 times Uber surge also, but when you see a cab, that's a ride that's right in front of you, ready to go. So some people might stop a cab with somebody in it already, so they might say, "I'll pay you $100." So you might have a customer in your car, and then somebody begging $100. So I say, "You know what, sir? I would do it for $80, and then I would drop the price on the customer in the car. So I might make $140 off that same ride because you have more price negotiation."
But isn't that what Uber Pool is for?
What'd you say?
But isn't that what Uber Pool is for? Multiple passengers, you get more money?
Well, we don't have Uber Pool here. But I don't. I think Uber Pool sucks by how everybody say, because I think that the surge isn't the same. If you're picking up 10 people in a row, it's even cheaper and you make less.
Yeah, no, I was being totally facetious.
Yeah,
Uber Pool sucks. No, that definitely sounds like a much better deal on the cab side than the Uber side.
And another way that when it's high surge, I don't know why Uber would look at surge as a bad thing, because the company is making more money, because instead of getting $5 from a driver, now they're getting $20 and $30 from a driver.
Well, I think the reason they would not like it and why they keep trying to get rid of it ever so subtly is because surge was kind of the big thing that got Uber most of the negative publicity before the Me Too movement started, because people were talking about $900 rides that were only going 10 miles and things like that. And so, I mean, when Uber first started talking about how they were really going to start, lessening the surge impact, if I recall correctly, the quote was, the memo said, "Surge is a marketing failure that needs to be corrected." And that's what it was for them. I mean, do they object to making more money for rides? No. What they object to is the negative publicity that came along with the surge rides. And that's why they started doing all these things, and even with the upfront pricing, I still did a video, and I remember laughing in that video because a couple said, "Oh, well, the ride was it quoted us the ride this much money, and we got charged this much money." And the driver, and it was pointed out that they decided, this isn't going to be our final stop. We're going to drive more. And Uber pointed out, "Hey, you did more driving, so the price changed. We're not going to give your money back." They go to the media, they complain about it, and then Uber cowardly refunds the money, because who wants that kind of negative publicity? So I think that's the main reason Uber doesn't like surge in the typical sense. And I think one of the reasons that they're even changing the surge, not only to take more money, but because they're always upfront about in every email, we are doing these changes to keep you on the road more, to keep you on the road. They don't want you to strategize. They want to keep you on the road. And, you know,
you remember
the fact
when they said that when they started with dropping the prices?
Oh, yeah.
I
By
would say
taking
in
more rides,
2015, they started saying, well, we dropped the prices so you could take a lot of small trips and make more money. That
which
was
is,
BS.
oh, it was total BS. I never made a lot of money on short trips. Why? It's like, look, guys, there's a reason I'm giving a lot of short trips like 2 or 3 stars sometimes, because it's like I'm not making money. And when I get like a very big surge on like a 2-mile trip, you're darn right I'm going to be a little upset. You know, because it's like this 3-time surge could have netted me $50 or whatever. I gone 15, 20 miles. Instead, I'm making 7 because I went in one place, 1 mile that they could have very easily walked. I want to
It's
say,
always Uber always been a good deal for a good it's a good deal for the passengers.
oh yeah,
And Uber don't own they don't own cars. It's almost like my ex-wife found this thing online that it was saying Uber don't own cars, Airbnb don't own houses, and I think something else that don't own Amazon don't. It wasn't Amazon. Amazon do own
no,
products and stores, but they'll say all these new gig-based companies, they don't really own anything. They are nothing more than apps.
right,
And
right. But you also don't see Airbnb like upping their intake every year because for arbitrary reasons, because it's like they know they don't own the houses. You know, I mean, granted, they might charge more, but you're going to get a little bit more as well, at least from what I understand. I could be wrong. I'm not on Airbnb yet. But Uber's like is like the worst about, hey, we're going to drop the prices and we're going to raise the fee, but don't worry, you'll make more money. And it's like, okay, look, math was definitely my weakest subject in school. Like, you know, that was bad. I was a really bad mathematician. And even I can tell you that's not how it works.
yeah, they think Uber just think that Uber think that they the only ones who know how to do math.
Well,
And that's
they
why I
also,
actually posted a few videos on that.
yes, exactly. Your math videos on Uber were really entertaining. I could see why you were called the savage scientist.
Oh yeah. Those are my most popular ones because I try to I mean you know, in order to talk about this, you have to let Uber know and the public know that this is something that not only am I doing that, you could go there and do it yourself. And I give you the step-by-step instructions on how to prove, you know, it's all about proof. And that's what math is. Math is nothing more than proving something. I mean, once you get into a more advanced math classes, it becomes more about proving that 1+1 is 2. If you could prove 1+1 is 2, you could prove any two numbers added together becomes a sum. So then it becomes letters, and that's when it becomes algebra, and that is what all this stuff comes down to. I want to make sure my profit P is greater than my expense E, and Uber doesn't look at it. I mean, they look at it as they want they want to take the profit from the driver and give them as small as possible. You know, that's what got a lot of these people in the rap industry. You know, they might hook up with some producer or some manager and something. They take all their money because they didn't do their math. So this is the
Right,
same thing I tell a lot of these Uber drivers. Take the time out and look at how much you're making and then subtract the expenses. That's why I only do
right.
Uber Select.
You do Uber Select. I see. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I
Um,
drive. The only time I drive Uber X is when I'm at the airport because I have a higher chance of getting a call that's $10. But if
wow.
I notice at home I get these little $3 calls. I have a Tahoe and it's a gas guzzler, so it's not worth it for me to get in my car and pick anybody up. for $3. So I would turn on Uber Select when I'm at home, and I might get a call every 2 hours, but at least I know I'm making $10.
You know, not that I hope it doesn't sound like I'm pitying or anything, but boy, how sad is it that that's the standard $10?
It is terrible.
It should. I mean, heck, I remember when $10 paid $10 was the minimum you would make on Uber X. Yes. Here in California, like it didn't matter how short the ride was. And that's when short rides were worth it, by the way. When I could pick someone up, they went down the block, I let them out, I got paid $10. Hey, you know what? I might even do more short trips under that math, because
that included Uber taking a 20% out.
Yep. Yeah, that included them taking their 20% out. And I don't recall anyone griping about it back then. I, in fact, remember Uber was growing even under the big, the higher rates. I mean, yeah, it exploded under the lower rates, but it's like, what if Uber had kept it at the rates?
I would have thought that they would have went up by now. Well, I think they're going up a little for the passengers, but they don't care about giving us any money.
No, and it's really been coming back to bite them. I mean, the drivers are leaving. That's why they're revealing the new surge slowly but surely, because every place that they put the new surge, not the passengers, the drivers are walking out. But hey, if you can find that to a few states, you put the rest of the state slowly, maybe by the time that exodus is done, all the new drivers who come in who have no idea what it was like back then, they'll just drive.
That's why they want those. That is one of the main reasons why Uber wants as many drivers as possible, because they could sell them a dream. But once they get out there and put $20 worth of gas in their car and see that they made $5, now they made $5 net profit off of their $20 worth of gas.
Yeah. And here's one of my questions, though, because I've noticed this. Back when I first started doing this channel, the report said that the driver retention rate was about 43%, which seemed fair because, you know what? There's a lot of people who just simply don't like driving all day. I actually like driving. I actually go on mini road trips for fun all the time, and then I end up making videos for my Ask Me on YouTube channel, which virtually nobody goes to, but whatever. So I like driving. But then a year or so later, when I was making videos, the retention rate dropped to 4%. It was a massive, massive drop. And we see more and more often that, yeah, Uber is getting a lot of people still signing up for them. Lyft too, but it's almost like a 98% chance that that person, once they get their bonus, they stop. They're going it just for the bonus. And Uber cannot be sustained on that. And of course, I personally believe, some people disagree. Maybe you'll disagree. I don't think those self-driving cars are coming in 2 years. I don't think they're coming in. I think we're looking 5 to 10 years myself. But I think
Uber is going to be around for 5 or 10 years.
Well, I don't think they're going to die this year like I had originally predicted, but I'm not that confident either. I'm just saying that I don't think the driverless cars on a small scale are coming for another 5 to 10 years.
No, I think driverless cars. I would put that. I would put that in 5 or 3 years in the future. That's because there's a lot of. I mean, driverless cars. Google been researching that ever since probably '96, and it's almost 20 years later, and it didn't happen. So what is so different about the technology? The technology advanced, but it's still proven that there are some problems. But this thing with Waymo, I just think that Uber can't sustain what they're doing now for 5 or 10 years. I think somebody's gonna come through and buy them out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're running out of ways to rip the drivers off.
Right. And isn't it interesting that what might be Uber's undoing is the way they treated the drivers, like the people that they cared the least about. And it's like, and this is what some people keep forgetting. There's been some companies, some very strong companies that were brought down by their employees because they unionized or they were already unionized and they brought the company down. I think the only recent thing I can think of where maybe that was played a little bit was Hostess Twinkies. When the union went on strike for better pay, Hostess said, hey, if you don't get back to work, we can't make money and we're going to have to go bankrupt. And they called the bluff. And Hostess filed for bankruptcy and they went out of business. But Hostess had behind closed doors arranged for someone to buy them when they filed for bankruptcy. Which
so that felt like that probably was some type of insider thing.
Oh, that was, yeah, I'm actually amazed there was no investigation done on that, but
they got called out by Tasted. Isn't it like Tasted Cakes, the people who make those?
Yeah, well, to be frank, I never really liked Twinkies that much, and I guess with my current health situation, I probably shouldn't eat them for a little while.
It's not good anyway. I don't eat that stuff. This stuff is not good for you anyway.
Yeah, well, I kind of live by the principle, hey, if I'm going to eat something bad for me, I might as well enjoy the taste of it at the very least. And Twinkies just never really did it for me, to be honest. I don't know. I never got
actually like the Twinkies without the nasty stuff in the middle, without the creamy old nastiness. It seemed like eating it, it just seemed like it just fall apart in your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. So, in fact, maybe that's how I should have been torturing the Uber passengers I don't like. If I didn't like you, you got a Twinkie at the end of the ride. I don't know if that would have been torture, but because some people really like the stuff, so much so, and I know this is a little off topic to all of our listeners, but when Twinkies went out of business, I kind of went to the 7-Eleven store and I bought the 7 boxes that were still on the store shelves. It was like, $8. I don't know why I did it. I'm glad I did though, because the next day on eBay, they were selling for hundreds of dollars a box. So I remember opening the boxes and selling individual Twinkies for $50 to $100 each. I made so much money on Twinkies going out of business.
I wish I would have thought of that. That is some enterprising thoughts there.
Yeah, well, I am an entrepreneur by definition. I do what I must to make money, and that's why I also don't drive for Uber and Lyft at the moment, because I don't see any money in there, which I guess that should lead us to the next question, because I'm sure you've probably talked to people who say Uber and Lyft is still worth it. You can still make money. And for certain people, I don't necessarily disagree. For them, they might be making the money they need. But for you, in your opinion, is Uber worth it in general?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay. What's your current rates right now?
Right now, the current rate is it's 84 cents a mile, and Uber Select is $1.32, and Uber XL is $1.10.
Wow. So, and you think people?
If I couldn't do Uber Select, it's not worth it.
Okay. There. All right. That's interesting to know. So you wouldn't be doing Uber X. Well, I guess you aren't doing Uber X.
The only time I would do it is if it's surging, because I know what it's like to make good money on Uber, and the only way I would get out and drive is if I could get the rate that I could know. And I think that was one of the. I remember when y'all were talking about doing the Uber strike. And and what I said is, what you was about to say?
I mean, I wasn't necessarily promoting a strike per se. I was just saying, if you really want to let your Uber know what your feelings are like, don't drive for them. And that's probably the best way to show your displeasure with what's going on. I wasn't necessarily calling for a strike.
But I was thinking the strike was good. If you want, okay. I mean, as a driver, if you want Uber to go up on the prices, force them to go up on the prices by forcing surge.
Right.
And that's, I mean, it hurts Uber because now they have to go into surge, and they're gonna have to surge so much that they say, oh, the only way we could get drivers out here is to bring this surge up. So this is the acceptable rate that we should have our drivers at anyway.
Right.
And so they just test the lowest. I mean, Uber don't own cars. I think even if Uber could if they had self-driving cars, you can't put that kind of tech. You know, paying for one self-driving car might cost about $500,000 or $600,000, and that includes somebody to watch the car. So just imagine you have that much money invested in a single car, and you have that car out there picking up people for $5 because Uber keep 100%, so a $5 trip, and you still have to pay somebody to watch over the car.
Oh, the prices for Uber would go up really high because so many things. They can't monitor people smoking in the car or puking in the car. I mean, the funny thing is, these are some of the common sense questions. I'm sure you've heard me use this phrase, the common sense questions I have. And I'm kind of amazed how every time I ask this question, people say, well, you know what? You ask these questions, but Google and Ford and Toyota, they're investing billions of dollars into this. You think they haven't thought of it? And it's like, well, I'm leaning towards no, because they still haven't actually answered what they're going to do about it or how they're going to control it. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's this really good documentary called startup.com. And by the way, folks, to all the listeners, it's free on YouTube right now, about entrepreneurs who are building a website and they're selling it, and they're worth millions and soon billions of dollars, and they're going to the White House. Bill Clinton's calling it a revolutionary idea. And all this time, while they're selling the idea of it, nobody stopped to look at the website and see how it functioned. And when they finally look at it, they realize this website sucks, and they lose everything. Trust me, you can put a lot of money into something and not know how things are going to work out in the long run.
Oh yeah, that sounds like what is it, the health website, whenever Obamacare website.
Oh yeah, I remember when first year that came out, that was the first time my taxes got complicated because the Obamacare website, I guess, dragged down the IRS website somehow, and I had to actually call the IRS to file the taxes. And he said, yeah, it's pretty much because of Obamacare. That's why things are messed up this year.
Yeah, and that site is still there, and I don't think it's buggy. And that's probably one of my areas that I'm gonna be doing research in, is human computer interaction. I have a video on that on my YouTube too. I just talk about what my future goal is in researching HCI.
Yeah, well,
because
since you go ahead.
Oh, one more thing before we get too far away from the taxi cab thing. One more reason why I think it's better to drive taxis is once you pay a taxi cab, the company its daily fee that is non-flexible, you get to keep all the rest of your money. So if I was driving Uber during the Super Bowl, and I might do 35 calls and make $1,200. Uber probably made about $800 of that. But if you were doing those same calls as a taxi cab, you would have about $2,300 and something. Because the cab company still charge the same amount. Because when I worked in New Orleans for West Bank Cab, their fee was $65 per day. Once I pay $65, then the rest of the money is mine. That's terrible on a slow day, but on a good day like the Super Bowl, I could work 24 hours and average $100 an hour. And there it is.
There is a new rideshare app that's actually trying to test that out. It's called Yay Driver. I haven't done a video on it yet, but Yay Driver is kind of going under the principle that the drivers have their own insurance and they pay the company like $100 a month to be on the app, but otherwise they keep 100% of the earnings.
I mean, that's kind of like, that is based off the taxi cab model.
Right. And I mean, I don't, it's just launched, and I haven't done a video on it yet, a full-blown video, because right now they're only accepting cash for the rides, but I have been informed that they will be accepting PayPal, relatively soon. And once they're accepting PayPal as a payment option, then I think I'll officially talk about it.
Now, another thing you could do is you could do Square.
Yeah, well, and I've consulted with these guys who are making the app and given them some advice. And I kind of told them, like, there's actually a lot, like the Square, like Venmo. You can do so many electronic transfers. I right now feel uncomfortable promoting an app that only accepts cash, because one of the reasons I feel is safe behind Ubers and Lyfts as I do is because I don't have a lot of cash on me, and I'm not a target for people who are hoping that I'm going to be carrying a lot of cash. But if you have an app where all you can do is accept cash, well, that kind of opens you up a little bit. So I kind of told them, once you get one electronic payment form implemented, then I would be okay with talking about it more openly. But I'm hoping it is at the very least a mild success, because I really think we need something to shake up the rideshare industry, because Lyft sure as heck isn't going to do it. They just copy Uber.
Lyft is just like Uber, and it's doing the same thing, like upfront pricing. I did a video when I talked about how Lyft is doing the same thing with upfront pricing. They would say a ride costs $6 and say they charge the rider $3, and now you're getting $2. But whenever you ask your customer for their receipt, you'll see that they actually got charged $9 or something. It's more.
Right.
And they totally just lied to the customer. So that's why I say that money has to be reported to the IRS somehow. Because that's almost like if we contractors and if we are contracted to build a 75-story building and they're gonna give us $50 million to do it, then what they're trying to say is that, like, if I work on this project and the company say they give me $10 an hour, but somehow it's shortened, like the company is paying $10 an hour to something like a temp agency. The temp agency might say that they well, this is getting very long, but what I'm trying to say is that if a subcontractor charges an amount that's not, if money is not being accounted for, under accounting practices, then Uber probably and Lyft could probably get into big trouble, because they're not accounting for those $4 that they are not showing in the app to the customer.
Yeah, well, Uber and Lyft seem to be very content to get into trouble. I mean, they've pushed. I mean, after that California law ruling that with Dynamex, I think it was, where under the terms of how the Dynamex workers were working, they were not independent contractors, and people were quick to point out that this is very much how Uber and Lyft was. You'd think Uber and Lyft would want to scale back, because here's the thing that some people are ignoring about that whole thing. They say, oh, well, this means Uber and Lyft will have to make us employees. And it's like, no, actually, if Uber and Lyft do the opposite of what's been going on, they can keep you as independent contractors. If they exert less control over you, you can stay an independent contractor under their conditions. And yet, this is when they decide they want to launch the new Surge, which takes away so much control in terms of planning and strategizing and flexibility, that I'm amazed they ran it through just as they're getting some real heat about making their drivers employees. Like,
yeah,
do
it
they
just
not
seemed like
realize?
it just seemed like Uber is the experiment on how to run a company. A
Right.
great idea. Uber is just tearing it apart. You
Yeah,
know, Uber don't care about technology. They are just trying to figure out a way to line their pockets with some money.
right. Right. And of course, yeah, if you're doing Uber and Lyft for like, I'm going to say more than 30 hours a week, and you're making it your full-time job, all that money that they're taking, you're doing it to build their company so that they can go public and make millions of dollars, and they still don't have to pay you anything. And
then they're not giving the drivers any type of say so, you know. And I don't know, it just seemed like if you're a contractor, you know, they have too much of that contractor clause, give them too much wiggle room to break the law and do the things they're doing.
yeah, it's, I don't know, and you know what, I have to say, while I do respect people who, hey, they have to do what they have to do to make money. And this is where I come from, the stance of why I actually feel like I am just as qualified to complain about Uber as the people who are driving, because it's like I recognize when I am being kicked and having my lunch money taken, and I choose not to participate in that. So, but on that note, I do like, with this brand new show, I do like to close off with these two questions. So what do you think your future of rideshare is? How long do you see yourself doing this?
Well, if prices don't go up, well, I can even say prices, because prices could go where they want to go, but right, if my profits don't go up, then I think that soon whenever, I mean, I could buy another car and turn it into a taxi and drive that. I could be out of this game tomorrow if I really need to. So, but right now, I just like how Uber is doing it. I like the tech behind it. I like to be on the cutting edge, and this is a great source of research. But I don't know if I could do this too long because I'm not making a lot of money.
Have you quite figured out like what too much longer looks like? Does it seem like 7 months, a year, 2 years?
Well, if Uber don't change like at this current rate, I still could do it, but not as much. If it get to the point where I go out there and it costs me more money, then I'm not doing it at all. And that's really one pay cut away. Because if Uber dropped to about 70 cents a mile, then I'm not driving. Well, if Uber select prices drop that far, then I'm not driving.
All right. Well, I don't know if they could actually do that to select. In fact, some people say, is there any scenario where Uber would be profitable? And I'm kind of like, I'm kind of leaning towards maybe if you drive a Prius or a Leaf, something that uses very little gas, it's probably still technically a little profitable.
I would, if you think about it, if you get less than, all right, let's assume a 1 mile call.
Yeah, that's like $2.30 over here.
All right. So if gas prices go up and you get a $2 call, you might have to drive 3 miles to get to this $2 call, and then they might go further out. So then you have to go back. You're trying to get back to your house. So that means that even though you're driving a Prius or something small like that, that $2 call costed you about 30 minutes of your time and about $1.50 worth of your gas to get back home. So you just wasted you just wasted all that time, because time is worth a lot too. And that's another thing people don't look at when they're looking at how much money or how much profit they're making from Uber. So that's why I look at the base rate, if the base per mile call, and if it drops too low, then I can't do anything. 80 cents a mile. I mean, you know, when you buy a car, it gets about you know, your car might get about 12 miles per gallon in city, and you divide that by how many. You divide that by how much you get a gallon of gas. If gas is $4 a gallon, and you only getting 8 miles a gallon, so that means the drive 1 mile costs you $2. I mean, not $2. What? You know, just divide that up. Divide 8 miles. Yeah, so you might be getting about 50 cents a mile per gallon. So, you know, you have to think about whenever it really, when it could be actually computed to the fact that your car per mile rating is the same amount Uber is paying you. That's whenever you start losing money.
So
I think I think I have a real good example of that right now.
Okay.
I'm about to do the numbers on it right now. So if I have a car that's if gas is $4.20 and my car gets 20 miles per gallon, that means that I am getting, that means it costs 21 cents per mile to drive. And suppose to get to this call, to drive the call, and to get back home is 6 miles. That means that it cost me $1.26 of my gas to get there. And if I only got $3 for that call, subtract that from $3, that means my profit is only $1.74.
Yeah. And if that took like 10 or 15 minutes and you get a few more like that, you're not getting minimum wage for that hour.
Yeah, so that means, and the further you go outside of the further you go away from your house, the more money you spending on this. So that's why the per mile and the per mile per gallon thing is serious.
Yeah, you know, Peterson had like a very good point. Like, he actually thinks that in terms of time, everyone should be paid the same. They should be paid like 50 cents a minute, which would guarantee a minimum wage, because when you're paying for the miles, you're not you're paying for the car, not and the type of service. But in terms of the time, everyone's doing the same thing. So I hope Peterson is doing okay. After he hasn't returned my calls recently. I know he kind of had to deal with was like some internet troll who got particularly aggressive. I have no idea what that feels like, but you know, YouTube is. Well, I guess that's my next question. How stressful is YouTube to you? Do you have to deal with anyone who like harasses you online or anything like that?
I have one video that I refer all my trolls to.
Okay.
It's the video called "How to Deal with Internet Trolls." I tell them, thank you for subscribing to my channel and watching my video. If you want to continue here goes some advice for you. So I put a link to that video and let them watch it.
No,
that video shows how to block people on YouTube. And I tell them, if you really about it, send me a private message so we could take care of this. And you know, it's basically me telling them that, you know, let's take it to the streets.
Right. Yeah. So YouTube's a pretty that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
They have a lot of trolls on YouTube, but I don't have a lot of troll problems. Actually.
Well, I do, to be perfectly honest, but that happens when you start getting to 8,000 subscribers. You're going to have a few people who don't like you, and I especially love the people who constantly tell me they've unsubscribed, and yet they keep showing up on my videos, commenting in my live stream. So, you know, it's like, well, even if you haven't subscribed, you're still watching my videos. So.
People who like you, but they hate you.
Right, exactly.
And you just say you like.
Yeah, last time, like, there was a guy who wrote like this really vile comment. I just responded, "Thank you for commenting," and left it at that. So anyway, I guess the final question I have before maybe we could turn it over to some live questions. I don't know if you're up to that.
Yeah,
the final, you okay, or you not want to do that?
Oh yeah, I'm open to live questions.
Okay, so people get some of your questions for Savage Scientists, not me, Savage Scientists, ready, because we're gonna take some of them after I ask this question. What do you think the future of your YouTube channel is?
Well, I think that if y'all should go check my channel out, Savage Scientist Ed, or just Savage Scientist. You know it's me because Savage on the forehead. I think my channel is gonna be more tech heavy and science heavy. Less Uber and less drama. Because most of my videos lately really haven't, I don't really have too many driver tips I could give you that's already out. Uberman, a lot of the people who drive, like what's that guy out of Chicago? Rideshare guy, Rideshare Revolution, and your personal driver, your driver Mike, Uber lady, Shell. A lot of those people already give you tips. I'm looking at the tech behind it and how the stuff that people are not covering. Like when Uber was hacked, since I have a computer security background, I understand a little more of what actually happened when they were hacked and what will happen if you have a data breach and what companies are supposed to do when they have massive data breaches. So I like to cover it more from a tech standpoint. That's why the tech Uber stuff is the best thing. I like the driverless car. That is my stuff. Like, that's why you didn't hear me talk about the shooting, because that's not under my jurisdiction almost of commentary.
Right. Yeah, well, and take it from someone who does cover those topics. That's a good way to get a lot of your videos demonetized too. Like, it's tough being in the news business. So the future is going to be more technology and science based. That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. So
yeah,
anyway,
I think for you, I know you getting about the Uber into related stuff and more related stuff. It's cool.
Yeah, I'm slowly transforming the channel from a Uber channel to a technology commentary channel. You might see me reviewing more apps. I mean, thankfully, Uber is the gift that keeps on giving, so there's still a lot to talk about, and I will even have a video today because of something kind of stupid the CEO dropped in a memo. But yeah,
YouTube.
Yeah, I kind of on YouTube. But I kind of have to tell people, guys, there's only so much advice I can give for Uber. They're ripping you off, and in terms of like advice, not that I want to throw everyone who gives actual advice under the bus, because I'd have to throw Mark from Uber Hints under the bus, and I'm not going to do that. But at the end of the day, you are just driving a car. It's not exactly rocket science, just picking someone up and dropping them off.
Yeah.
So anyway, we do have at least one question.
I just had one. They had one more statement that I wanted. I know you don't talk about Rody a lot. I want to give you credit for it, but I wouldn't have knew anything about Rody if you wouldn't have made that video. I just want to give you your credit for that too.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, Rody's an interesting one for me. I want to like Rody a lot more than I do. I really think it's a good idea. And since I like doing road trips, I kind of even like the idea, like, boy, you could use Rody to kind of pay for a road trip if you got enough things side by side. I think the issue with the roadie for me is that I think if anything really needs to have like a minimum range tier, it's roadie, because roadie says, hey, you know, they're on their way, so list your item and give them something to take it while they're on the way. And you have people like wanting you to take like like a living room full of furniture, which includes like desks and stuff, that you need like a big U-Haul van, and they want you to take it all the way to the East Coast, and they want to give you $100 for it. And it's like, yeah, no.
Yeah, because that's not how I know. I bought a big table from Kansas City to San Francisco, but I was headed to Seattle. So I did it, but you know, I thought about it and like, well, that kind of put me out the way, about $20 out the way just to do that.
Right.
On both ends of the trip. But you know, it's all about planning when you do this app, and you know, it's just become a logistical nightmare if your customer decides to go with somebody else. And you know, it's not like it's guaranteed. You know, they have and I do agree with, they have some things that you have to look out for when you're doing this app, but it's a lot more pleasurable than doing Uber and Lyft.
It's a lot more
pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like it's fun to, you know, I like sometimes, you know, you get to see different parts of the country. That is great. And, you know, you get to interact with people in the area that you're going on your vacation, hopefully. But the thing I hate is, like you said, somebody, big couch going across the United. I do not want to bring a couch. I do not want to have a couch in my car when I can have luggage, you know. So you have to think about, you know, you have to, you know, it's not going to really be a vacation if you bringing somebody junk across country. It's work, because these things are not small, and you have to communicate with them, and you have to deal. I mean, they pretty much become your boss, because you have these stuff.
Right. Now, the funny thing is, I'm looking at the roadie app right now, and you see there's this, someone wants like a box of books to be driven like 11 miles, and they're going to give $11 for a delivery and a $10 tip. And that makes sense to me. That's the kind of thing is like, yeah, if you're on your way there, yeah, I will do that for $20. And yet I move a little over and someone wants a chandelier that's about 2.3. See, it's medium, so it fits in the front of your car, but they want to pay you $160, and this is going all the way to New York City, which it's like, I don't think there's a lot of people who are just going to be on their way to New York City from Los Angeles.
Yeah, so the only way I would do that is, like, if you were doing that, you know, I mean, and this is probably where the geography thing comes in handy. So if I was going, like, if I was driving road, you know, the best money comes from the longer trips. So if you see something, if you map your way to New York City, so you know, if you're in Los Angeles, you're gonna probably hit Interstate 10 all the way until you get somewhere in Arizona. So you might stop in Phoenix, and you might see somebody with something going to Kansas City. You pick that up. When you get to Kansas City, you might see something for $500 going to Washington, D.C. You pick that up. And then you might see something from D.C. to New York, and you bring that with the chandelier. So if you add all that up, that's about $1,400. And then you still have to come back home. And you can do that same thing coming home. And you could have been made about $3,000 for a 1 week trip to New York and back.
Right. But then of course
but you got to have a cargo van to do that.
Right. And it's just
I couldn't hear you. Your phone. It might be my phone.
Yeah. Yeah. And how many times how many people have just cargo?
You could rent trucks? One. I'm gonna my next video, when I actually go through my roadie trip, I have a video and I'm gonna talk about the items I bought, how much I got, how I planned it, and how much I made.
Well, I'm going to look forward to watching that, because the funny thing was I almost did the roadie adventure. I was going to do the roadie vlogs and travel cross country and do it. And then some stuff came up in the personal life, so that kind of had to be canceled. But I'm really glad to see someone's going to attempt it, because I was always curious how possible this was.
Yeah, I have it all written out. Did you see my roadie video?
Yes, I did. And yeah, that was very interesting. But roadie's one of the things, I talked about it because it's like, well, it's a way to make money, so I want to let people know about it. But I was just having a hard time finding other topics about it, so I'm glad someone's going to be on top of that.
Oh yeah, I made a nice profit off of it, because I get into some math in that video too. That's why I wanted to split it up into 2 videos. I wanted to have one video where I talk about what roadie is and how to do it and make money. And then I'm going to use my own personal experience. And I'm going to actually do another experiment with that video, since I have my little friend with me. She a nice, pretty girl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take her picture and put it on as the thumbnail. And then I'm going to post another picture with just following my normal format. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how many people watch this video since the girl is in the thumbnail versus either me or just showing a whole bunch of stuff. And then I'm going to do another video explaining why I did that. So that's going to be some of the scientific stuff behind this. They have a lot of stuff that's about to start happening on my channel. I don't know if I'm going to get a lot of views and a lot of subscribers from it, but my channel is supposed to be an experiment. And now I'm about to start doing the experimenting.
Well, that sounds good. So, all right. So let's see here. So a question, Seaside Surfs asked, what states do you think are next to be reevaluated, like California for Uber and Lyft? Also, should we start a hashtag boycott Uber on the 1st and 15th of every month?
Starting to boycott Uber.
Start with the boycott.
I think you already brought up a point that boycotting Uber, it probably won't put money. I mean, it won't make a difference, because some of the drivers are going to still drive when that surge hits. And if you're looking to make money, then I would do it. But you just have to get a lot of people on board to do that. And it's going to take a lot of effort to coordinate that.
Yeah. The other thing I'm wondering is, because we do know that Uber and Lyft signups are still very high. Could enough people stop driving to counterbalance the people who are signing on? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about
so many people. Yeah, like how many people are signing up for Uber and Lyft? Could enough people boycott that would actually make a difference?
Well, it would actually have to be somebody popular, somebody with a lot of pull. If you because another thing you can do is, if you want to boycott Uber and Lyft, just pass out a card whenever you do it. While you driving Uber and Lyft, let the passengers know what's about to happen on the 1st and 15th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe if you could because I would say boycott Uber on the 1st, boycott Lyft on the 15th.
Interesting.
Or just boycott both of them.
Yeah.
Because the best thing to do is boycott both of them. But if you could focus on one company on the 1st, then you will know what Lyft did to because if one hurting, then the other one is gonna benefit. They're gonna have people who want to make money. So I would also say to try to do both, but if you do one, then you could look at what the other one is doing.
Right. I hear you, and I've also been kind of.
Gonna work.
I don't think so, and I don't think you're going to get much luck getting passengers involved because you know what, someone that I know was trying to tell passengers, and not only did most of the passengers seem unreceptive to a boycott, but one of them, you know, she said, "Look, I understand you're not getting paid much and need to live, but I rely on Uber to get to work. So if you start causing delays in me getting an Uber and you start causing the prices to go up, you have become my enemy."
Another thing is whenever another way you can get the passengers involved is to let them know, you know, if you could show them this is how, look at how much Uber is taking from me. Just, you know, I don't know if Lyft is still doing what they're doing, but Lyft would tell the driver that they paid a lower amount. So that means that the customer should be entitled to a refund.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are still doing that.
You have to approach Lyft a little different from Uber.
Right. You do. I actually was really surprised, truthfully, that Lyft did not take advantage of the upfront pricing in the sense that they could have very easily done it where it was like an ad campaign, really, where it's like Uber charges for miles that aren't driven. At Lyft, we will never charge for undriven miles. We will you will always get a fair fare. Sounded like a catchy
and I
thing.
Think that's what's behind Pay Drivers Fair.
Right.
Because I started a hashtag FAIR, and I know Uberman started FARE.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, and I think there was some confusion. Like I understand why they wanted to spell it FARE, but that actually seemed to cause more confusion than anything.
Yeah. So I just went with both of them. And you know,
yeah. But you know, why didn't Lyft realize there was a way to get the same amount of money they were already making, pay the drivers more without raising the fees, and you could get goodwill on the customer side because you were showing that you weren't charging for basically inflammatory prices that were predatory, really. Like, why didn't they take advantage? No, they had to do the exact same thing.
I think Lyft is probably this is another thing that I heard. I heard the reason why Uber dropped their prices so much is because they had competition from Lyft.
Right.
I wish Lyft and Uber would have merged early in the beginning, or they didn't have a Lyft. Because I think really if it just competed with the taxi cab business, the prices would have been reasonable. When Uber was competing with the taxi cabs, you know, their prices were actually a little more than taxi. And they still, like you said, their business grew. Because really, I don't even think Uber should even worry about anything except making sure the app is working. And just have it regionalized. They really should have sold this technology to the taxi cab business.
Yeah, they should have. I don't know how I feel about Uber and Lyft merging early on because monopolies are rarely a good thing.
That's what started the price war.
It did, but then who knows? Maybe we'd just be in the same situation where if they had merged, maybe Uber would have still been cutting our pay and just taking more money for themselves. I mean, that kind of seemed to be the end goal all along.
But then if Uber and Lyft would have merged, then we would only have to fight one company.
Well, what's frustrating is in theory, if there's two companies, you have the option, like you don't like what one company is doing, you go to the other company. And the problem is in this case, the other company is so exactly the same in every conceivable way that you really are still fighting just one company, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, but it's like Uber is doing one thing and Lyft is doing, you know, well, yeah. I mean, in a sense that they both are doing the same thing, but you know, like if you have like the protest thing, you know, if they have a protest, people gonna just start doing Lyft, or somebody gonna do Uber. So you have to protest both companies for it to be effective, and nobody gonna want to do that. And but
Yeah.
if you really want to impact the surge, you will do one company.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So anyway, do we have any other questions? No, not really. I guess we're pretty much done. This will wrap up the first episode of the Underground Rideshare podcast. Is there any closing thoughts you have for us, Savage Scientist?
Hey, well, I'm just telling everybody to stay tuned to my channel. A lot of things are about to start changing. That change already started, and that's how I start my videos. But change is coming, and I'm gonna give y'all more of a commentary on Uber instead of just drive. I'm out of driving tips for everybody. So now I'm really gonna be talking about the tech behind Uber.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And for the record, everyone, we will have a link to his channel in the description below after this podcast finishes. And I can add it. So thank you for being a guest on my first episode of the Underground Rideshare. As for everyone else, if you want to be a guest on the Underground Rideshare, I do have some good news. I actually did send out other invites through YouTube's private messaging system. So please, guys, check it out and see if I asked you to be on. Otherwise, I will try to reach out through Twitter or a business email. Remember, the criteria is you have to have some level of videos and content related to the rideshare industry, and you have to be under 1,000 subscribers. One of the points of the podcast is to help out the little guys, not to help the big guys get bigger. I might have you on the other podcast for that. In the meantime, thank you to everyone who is watching live. Please do us a favor and click that like button and subscribe to both of our channels if you haven't already. And if you're listening to this after the fact, you can still leave comments below. And as always, flame responsibly, and we'll see you next time on the Underground Rideshare. Have a good one.